Can secular judges decide on religious practices? Will constitutional morality override centuries old faith traditions? Is female genital mutilation an essential religious practice? Can Muslim women enter into mosques? Hello and welcome to The Print. I, Ruchi Bhattar, will detail how the Supreme Court's 9-judge bench over the last month and a half was grappling with such issues with sharply divergent visions of the Constitution. One, arguing that courts must maintain the autonomy of religious communities and cannot rewrite religion, while on the other hand, the other insisting that practices rooted in exclusion, purity, and gender hierarchy cannot be deemed to be constitutional merely because they are religious in character. It is important to note that this reference is not on the merits of the case, rather, it is to lay down a broader judicial policy for the interpretation of religious freedom under the Constitution of India, answering questions about the interplay between the rights of persons under Article 25 and the rights of religious denomination under Article 26 of the Constitution of India. It will also outline the scope and extent of the word morality under Article 25 and 26 of the Constitution and whether it is meant to include constitutional morality at all. Most importantly, the scope of judicial review in religious practices and whether a person not belonging to a religious denomination or religious group can question a practice of that religious denomination or religious group by filing a PIL will also be answered. The 9-judge bench of Chief Justice of India Surya Kant, along with Justices B.V. Nagaratna, M.M. Sundaresh, A. Amanullah, A. Kumar, A.G. Masih, P.B. Varale, R. Mahadevan, and J. Bagchi, examined a batch of questions that could redefine how India looks at religious freedom under the Constitution. The reference arose after a 5-judge bench in 2018 by a 4-1 majority allowed women of menstruating age into the Sabarimala Ayyappa temple, holding that the exclusionary practice violated constitutional guarantees of equality and freedom of worship. Attached to this reference are also disputes involving Muslim women's entry into mosques, Parsi women married to non-Parsis entering fire temples, female genital mutilation among Dawoodi Bohra communities, and the right of religious denominations generally. Now, who said what? The central government emerged as one of the strongest critics of the expansive judicial review during the hearings, cautioning the Supreme Court against entering what it described as the domain of faith. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta argued that judges are constitutional experts, not religious authorities, and therefore courts cannot sit in appeal over matters of religion by branding practices as superstition or social backwardness merely because they may appear inconsistent with contemporary values. During the hearings, the centre argued that many religious institutions across India impose distinct conditions relating to age, gender, attire, rituals, or mode of worship for both men and women, and such practices cannot automatically be equated with discrimination. One of the sharpest aspects of the Union government's submissions concerned the doctrine of constitutional morality, which had played a central role in the 2018 Sabarimala judgment. The centre criticized constitutional morality as a vague concept lacking a clear constitutional definition. Also, Mehta argued that the Hindi text provides a more accurate understanding of indigenous concepts, such as using sampradaya for denomination and sadachara for morality. Lastly, the central government went on to say that the 2018 judgment of Joseph Schein, which decriminalized adultery, is bad in law because the concurring judgment of Justice Chandrachud not only invokes constitutional morality as a standard of review, but does so while making the law under Article 141 on the basis of specific academic journals, feminist theory texts, and a minority dissenting view of the United States Supreme Court. The Travancore Desam Board told the Supreme Court it opposes women of reproductive age entering the Sabarimala temple, citing that courts shouldn't interfere in faith matters and that restriction is a classification, not discrimination. The board's primary justification for the restriction is the specific character of the deity, Lord Ayyappa. Unlike other Ayappa temples, according to it, the Sabrimala deity is worshipped in the form of Naishtika Brahmacharya or a perennial celibate student. The board contends that the deity's great powers are derived from the ascetic endeavors and a strict abstinence from sexual activities. This religious requirement extends to the devotees who must undergo a rigorous 41-day vratham or penance involving abstinence and self denial to purify the human mind and body before the pilgrimage. One of the most politically significant aspects of the hearing was the change in position adopted by the Kerala government. The Left Democratic Front's Pinarayi Vijayan's led government, which had strongly supported the 2018 judgment, permitted women's entry, informed the court during the reference hearings amid assembly elections in Kerala that it would leave the issue to be decided by the judiciary, marking a moderate shift from its previous stand. Senior advocate Rajiv Dhawan, appearing for an intervener, argued for a fundamental shift in how the Indian state interacts with faith and that requiring a believer to prove a total transformation of their faith just to merit protection is an overly restrictive stand that fails to account for the actual lived experience of religious devotion. He challenged the entry simpliciter argument, asserting that the right of an individual does not end at the temple gate. He argued that the right protected under Article 25 is not merely the physical act of crossing a parameter, but the substantive right to worship. Dhawan critiqued the elevation of constitutional morality from a guiding value to a formal legal limitation on religious freedom. Appearing for Ayappa temple bodies, senior advocate J. Sai Deepak argued that Article 26 guarantees an independent sphere of collective religious autonomy, limited only by considerations of public order, morality, and health. Extending Article 25 Part B to override denominational rights, he contended, would undermine the constitutional protection afforded to religious institutions in managing their own affairs. He further argued that judicial scrutiny of such practices would effectively amount to the court's rewriting religious norms. Appearing for the Dawoodi Bohra community, senior advocate Neeraj Kishan Kaul stated that morality should not be understood as societal morality, but from the standpoint of the community. He added that constitutional morality is aimed at harmonizing fundamental rights and cannot at the same time serve as a tool to import an additional restriction into Articles 25 and 26. Senior advocate Shyam Diwan, for interveners representing various Hindu, Jain and Christian faith-based organizations, referred to the golden triangle of Articles 14, 19 and 21 and suggested that the court may consider whether the time has come to expand this triangle so that the right to freedom of religion is also seen as part of the core constitutional structure. Senior advocate M.R. Shamshad, appearing for the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, submitted that the petition is framed as a PIL alleging violation of Articles 14, 19 and 21 with no reference to Article 26. He said it proceeds on the footing that women are not allowed to enter mosques and that there is no quarrel across religious denominations in Muslims that women cannot enter into mosques and that too for prayers. Further adding that women can be part of the congregation, though certain discipline has to be followed. He also explained that if everyone from the house goes on, then who will take care of the children? Starting from day 10, the court heard arguments from the respondents, the ones supporting the Sabrimala 2018 verdict. First, senior advocate Indira Jaising, representing two women who had successfully entered the Sabrimala temple in 2019 following the Supreme Court's 2018 ruling, differentiated between access and practice. Entry into a temple, she argued, flows from Article 25(1) as a matter of conscience, while rituals remain protected. She explained that the court has protected ritualistic practices but not exclusion from access. According to her, while a person cannot dictate how puja is to be performed, that protection of ritual cannot extend to denying entry into the temple itself. She rejected the argument that religious matters are beyond judicial review and maintained that custom cannot override a fundamental right. Jaising also argued that untouchability is not confined to caste but extends to notion of pollution, purity and defilement. She argued that there is a parity between exclusion and treatment of women as impure. Next, for the Indian Young Lawyers Association, the original petitioners behind the 2018 Sabrimala verdict, Advocate Ravi Prakash Gupta attacked the maintainability of the reference, arguing that it was made to unsettle a settled law. Next, appearing for a Parsi woman, senior advocate Khambata argued that the collective rights of a denomination cannot trample upon the individual's right of a believer, and that a faith-believing woman should not be stripped of her right or the right to worship simply because she married outside her community. The court observed that practices excluding people based on marriage or caste cannot be sustained under the guise of religious custom, and such exclusion is unconstitutional. Senior advocate Siddharth Luthra for the interveners argued that the practice of female genital mutilation is performed on 7-year-old girls who are minors incapable of giving consent. The court was also told that FGM is not ordained in holy books and cannot claim protection as an essential religious practice. Senior advocate Kaul also submitted that excommunication in the Dawoodi Bohra community could not be treated as a matter of social reform, as in the case of Sardar Sayedna in 1962, the Constitution Bench had already recognized excommunication connected to religious practice as protected under Article 26 of the Constitution. Appearing for 3 women who were denied entry into the Sabrimala temple, senior advocate Vijay Hansaria argued that Article 26 does not have supremacy over other constitutional provisions, as a notwithstanding clause is absent. Appearing in an intervention application filed by Swami Agnivesh, senior advocate Menaka Guruswamy said that the state is religiously agnostic, but it also reforms. She argued that describing India as a classical welfare state. Quoting Constituent Assembly debates, she submitted that conscience must sometimes support reform, even where a large majority may disagree. She argued that civilizations are reformed when balance is upset. On the last and the 16th day of the reference, the amicus curiae senior advocate K. Parameshwar made concluding submissions that critique the current judicial approach to religious freedom. Parameshwar argued that religious freedom represents a form of swaraj or personal identity and urged against applying strict, culturally insensitive definitions to identify religious denominations. Furthermore, he also argued that devotees should not have to prove a unique identity to protect their traditions, and that constitutional morality should be applied carefully to avoid subjective interpretations. With that, thank you for watching.